breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the Evo! Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you guys. Joining me in segment number 2, we go out to Philadelphia. That's where we find Jon Janesn. He does great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, and we're going to be joined by him to chat about what we're seeing right now with the Philadelphia Phillies. This was done, by the way, before Sunday Night Baseball, where we saw Nick Castellanos be able to get the job done for them, and we are going to be chatting about just what we're seeing league-wide in terms of Major League Baseball with regards to some of these playoff races, some of the things to take a look at, and what we've seen in recent years in terms of the playoffs as well, where the wildcard teams have really had a leg up on the teams that have received a bye. Will that be the case moving forward? We're going to be talking about that and so much more. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we will fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @JNN_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM. Name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but we had a fun day of baseball on Sunday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Chicago Cubs have now won 9 out of their last 10 games, and I've been talking about them a little bit on the show here the last few days. Perhaps a team that can make some inroads for a wild card run. 14-1 the final as the Cubs put up 14 runs without a single homer. 9 of 17 with men in scoring position. Jordan Wicks was able to do a rock-solid job. He goes 5 innings. He allows 1 run. First start off the injured list for him. Keegan Thompson, 2 scoreless innings, and then Sean Armstrong and Ethan Roberts were able to end a scoreless inning. And for Washington, this was not great for their bullpen. As Mitchell Parker, it's not like this was a savory performance, but 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in 6 innings. He did have his own throwing error come back to nip him in the bud, but from there you saw Jacob Barnes give up 3 runs in a third of an inning. Jose Ferrer is able to fill 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then you had 5 runs given up while getting 2 outs from Zach Brzezicki. This is one where it's spelled Brzykcy. I have no idea how to pronounce that, so we're going to call him Zach, who gave up 5 runs in 2/3 of an inning before you had 2 runs in a third of an inning given up by Orlando Ribalta. And for the Washington Nationals, not much doing at the plate. You did see the St. Louis Cardinals be able to take down the New York Yankees to be able to win that series. 14-7 was the final on Sunday with a trio of home runs. Jordan Walker welcomed back his first home run season, then Nestor Cortez gives one up to Luken Baker, his second home run season, and Lars Nootbaar, his 9th home run in the campaign for Nootbaar. He goes deep off of Ron Benanaccio, who gives up 2 runs over the course of his inning work. For Nestor Cortez, not what he was hoping for, giving up 5 runs over the course of 4 innings before Scott Effross. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 2/3 of an inning to Mesa's scoreless inning, but Jay Cousins allows 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Tommy Kahnle, 3 runs, 2 of which were given up in a third of an inning. And Phil Bickford was able to give you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And Miles Michaelis did not necessarily have the world's greatest performance either. 24th home run season, slugged out off of him by Giancarlo Stanton as Michaelis gives up 5 runs, 3 of which were earned over the course of 4 innings. From there, you did have John King give up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings, but the rest of the bullpen able to do a solid job. Andrew Kittredge, Ryan Fernandez, they both end a scoreless inning, and Riley O'Brien and Jojo Romero, they're able to give you 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And for the Yankees, one of your top over teams in all of baseball, 76 overs, 57 unders, and 4 pushes. That top over team in all of baseball, though, that'd be the Arizona Diamondbacks, and boy, did they lambaste the Los Angeles Dodgers. 14-3 the final. Justin Robelski fills 5 1/3 innings, giving up 10 runs, all of which were earned as he allowed an 8 spot in the second inning. The fact that they got as much length out of him as they did, I mean, credit where it is due for Robelski just eating it, but he gave up a pair of home runs along the way. Randall Grichuk, 6th home run season, and Eugenio Suarez, he's able to get home run 22 of the campaign. Michael Grove from there, 2 runs, one of which was earned, given up in 1 2/3 innings, and position player Kike Hernandez gives up 2 runs in an inning of work for the Dodgers. They go just 1 of 11 with men in scoring position as Brandon fought, he battled through, getting 10 strikeouts in 5 2/3 innings, allowing 3 runs. Joe Mantiply, and out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Dylan Floro, 2 scoreless innings, and Paul Sewald is able to end a scoreless inning of his own. The old Walker Texas Rangers have been a pretty solid under team thus far this season, but this one goes over as they walk it off in 10 innings by a count of 6 of 4 against the Oakland A's, as it was a walk-off bomb that was able to get it done for them. Josh Young, who's been injured throughout the entirety of the season, he goes deep, home run number 5 of the campaign, as for Oakland, they got a pretty solid performance out of Mitch Spence. Spence gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. From there, Ross Stripling, TJ McFarland, Michael Otans, they'll end a scoreless inning, and this was a game that actually, as a matter of fact, was 2-2 going into the 10th inning, so if you had the under in this game, boy, I feel for you, as the Rangers 43 unders, 23 overs, and 2 pushes at home thus far this season, and Mason Miller, after a scoreless 9th inning, gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in the 10th, including that walk-off shot, as for the A's, they do go 6 of 20 with men in scoring position. For Texas, Walter Pennington was the opener for Jose Urena, as Pennington 1 1/3 innings scoreless. Urena gives up a run in 4 2/3 innings. Andrew Chafin and Jose Leclerc both land a scoreless inning. David Robertson gives up a run in an inning, and you had Matthew Festa give up 2 runs, one of which was earned, but that was good enough to earn him a win. On Sunday Night Baseball, we saw the Philadelphia Phillies take it to the Atlanta Braves in 11 innings by a count of 3-2. For those that are a fan of the Greg Peterson experience, I appreciate all of your support over the last few years, and minutes after I signed off on the show for the final time, of course, Nick Castellanos has a game-winning hit. The universe knew, so there was that, but for Aaron Nola, he was pretty solid in this one. 2 runs given up over the course of 6 innings, including a home run going deep for the Atlanta Braves. Michael Harris, his 9th home run of the season. From there, Orion Kerkering, Jeff Hoffman, Matt Strom all end a scoreless inning, and Carlos Estevez 2 scoreless innings in extras to be able to get that one done. And for the Atlanta Braves, Spencer Schwellenbach, 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Dylan Lee, he gets it out of the bullpen scoreless before Pierce Johnson, Joe Jimenez led a scoreless inning. Rossio Iglesias, 2 scoreless innings. Aaron Bummer, well, this was not a bummer, an unearned run given up in 2/3 of an inning, but Grant Holmes, he's unable to maintain with men in scoring position that he inherited. He was unable to keep them on, as the Braves, they go 0 of 10 with men in scoring position. That was costly for them, and the Braves, they continue to be your best under team in all baseball. A little bit north of 60.5% of their games have gone under the total, 80 unders, 52 overs, and 5 pushes thus far this season. For the Seattle Mariners, they've been a pretty rock-solid team at home this season. They have not been such a great team when they've been on the road. 3-2, they fall to the Los Angeles Angels, and for the Seattle Mariners, they have now fallen to 28-40 on the road. The only 2 teams with a worse road record than the Seattle Mariners are the Oakland A's and the Chicago White Sox in terms of American League teams. And for Seattle, they have Luke Raley get his 17th home run of the season. This came off of the rookie in Caden Donna. And Donna, the young 20-year-old, he was able to deliver, did give up that home run, but 2 runs in total over the course of 6 innings. From there, you had Brock and Roll Burke along with Ben Joyce and Ryan Miller all end a scoreless inning. For the Angels, Taylor Ward early on was able to go deep off of Bryce Miller, his 19th home run season. For Miller, gives up 3 runs in 4 2/3 innings, including that homer before bullpen did their part. Edward Bizzardo, Troy Taylor, both on his scoreless inning, and Trent Thornton, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Angels have also had their issues at home, as they are now 29-41 on the money line at home, but that's good enough to be able to get it done. This was good enough to be able to get it done. Zach Eflin, pretty Eflin good for the Baltimore Orioles. 6-1 the final, as the team goes 4 of 12 with men in scoring position, and for the Orioles, they have been tremendous when they've been on the road, 40-29 as far this season, as you had Mr. James McCann get his 5th home run season. That comes off the starter and tie block. For Block, well, he blocked any hope of the Rockies getting a victory here, giving up 5 runs over the course of 4 innings, including that bomb. Jake Bird from there, 2 scoreless innings. Justin Lawrence was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. 7 Justice, he gets an out as well, and Anthony Molina gives up 1 run in 2 innings, but for Eflin, 9 punch-outs, gives up 1 run in 7 innings before Matt Bauman and Gregory Soto were both able to turn a scoreless inning. Be able to turn a lot of scoreless innings was the Cleveland Guardians. They take it to the Pittsburgh Pirates, this by a count of 6-1, as Cleveland continues to be one of your best home teams all season long. They are on the money line 43-25. That's your best mark in the American League. And for Pittsburgh, Mitch Keller did not have it in this one. He gives up 11 hits, 4 runs, 3 of which were earned, including not 1, not 2, but 3 home runs, as it was Jose Ramirez getting his 34th home run season. That was actually off of Ryan Baruch, as before that, you had Kyle Manzardo get home runs number 1 and 2 of the season, and Andres Gimenez, he gets home run number 7 of the season. Those were all off of Mitch Keller, and then you saw Ryan Baruch give up that home run to Ramirez, 2 runs, give it up in his inning of work. Kyle Nicholas, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. David Benner, a scoreless inning, and for Cleveland, pretty rock solid performance from Alex Cobb, giving up an unearned run in 6 innings. Caden Smith, Hunter Gaddis, Tim Herron, they all turn a scoreless inning, and also being able to turn a lot of scoreless innings, the Detroit Tigers, 4-1. They take down the Boston Red Sox. For Boston, Cooper Criswell, 4 scoreless innings, and then the bullpen had their issues. Rich Hill, making his 3rd appearance in 4 days at the age of 44, gives up 2 runs over the course of a third of an inning, including a home run, as going deep off of him, Spencer Torkelson, his 8th home run season. Then Riley Green off of Zach Kelly gets his 20th home run season. For Kelly, he also gives up 2 runs while going 2/3 of an inning. Brandon Bernardino, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Chase Shogert, he's able to come in for 2 scoreless innings as well, but not a lot doing off the Detroit Tigers in this one, as Brant Herter, well, he was not hurt, as he gives up 1 run over the course of 5 innings after Bo Brisky, the opener, gives you 4 outs scoreless. Will Vest, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless, and Jason Foley is able to turn a scoreless inning, as I believe the Tigers are now 15-5 in their last 20 games. They have been able to claw their way back above 500, and the Padres, they are certainly well above 500, and they're one of your best road teams in all of baseball. 4-3, they take down the Tampa Bay Rays, as they're now 40-29 on the money line this season. That is the best in the National League in terms of road games and road games only, as they have Jackson Merrill go deep in this one, as he is now minus $8 to be the NL Rookie of the Year. 21st home run of the season. That comes out for Ryan Pepiot, who is not long for this game. 3+ innings, allows 3 runs, all of which were earned. From there, the bullpen was not bad. Manuel Rodriguez does give up a run in an inning, but Richard Lovelady, scoreless inning, and when Uceta gets 4 outside the bullpen squirrels. Cole Sulzer was able to lend 2 2/3 innings of his own, but for the Rays, they go 1 of 10 with men in scoring position. For Dylan Cease, does give up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. He walked 3, which was an issue, but bullpen at his back. Tanner Scott, Jason Adam, Jeremiah Estrada, Robert Suarez, all able to turn a scoreless inning. The VSiN website write-up picks, they continue to come through. We're now 20-10-2 since the changeover to the VSiN website, so let's stay hot with these. 7-2 the final. I had the over of 8.5, and just is barely able to get there, as for Houston, they were able to get a trio of home runs in this one. John Singleton, his 12th home run season off of Brandon Marsh, and then Sammy Long gives one up to Yordan Alvarez, and Brandon Marsh gives one up to Alvarez. 29th and 30th home runs of the campaign for Marsh, gives up 3 runs in 5 innings, including a pair of bombs, and then Sammy Long gives up the solo home run to Yordan Alvarez in his inning of work. Carlos Hernandez gives you a scoreless inning, but John Schreiber gives up 3 runs in a third of an inning before you have Chris Stratton get a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and Bobby Witt Jr., he goes deep off of Hector Neris, his 30th home run season. Pretty solid start here for Houston, with Ronald Blanco not delivering a lot of length, but gets out of a sticky situation. 5 scoreless innings. From there, Taylor Scott, Hector Neris both lend a inning out of the bullpen, with both giving up 1 run. Brian Abreu, Caleb Ort, they're both able to turn a scoreless inning. The New York Mets take it to the Chicago White Sox by a count of 2-0, and for the White Sox, in my research of this team, they now have 31 wins compared to 107 losses, but they have something else that is 31. They have 31 blown saves while getting 31 wins. Just absolutely hilarious, the absolute stinkitude of this team, as Garrett Crochet, he allows 1 run in 3 1/3 innings. He got 10 outs in this game, and 8 of them were strikeouts. He did allow a solo home run, as Francisco Lindor gets his 29th home run of the campaign. And then from there, the pitching wasn't bad. Jared Schuster, 2 scoreless innings. You had 2 scoreless innings out of Prelander, Baroa. Justin Anderson does allow a run in his inning of work, but Gus Farland, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. But for the White Sox, a whopping 2 hits in this one. Sean Manaea had them completely off guard. 7 scoreless innings. Reed Garrett, Edwin Diaz, both land a scoreless inning, and for the White Sox, the stink continues. And for the Minnesota Twins, the wins at home continue. They're able to get the job done by a count of 4-3, as for the Blue Jays, it was a case where they just could not get a lot going with men in scoring position. They go 0 of 7 with men in scoring position. Ernie Clement, he does go deep off of Bailey Ober. That's home run number 11 of the campaign for Ober. Gives up that home run and in 6 innings of work. Cole Sands, Yohan Dadan, they both led to scoreless inning, and Griffin Jacks does give up 2 runs over the course of an inning of work, and Royce Lewis, he goes deep for his 16th home run season. That's off of Chad Green, as Green was able to do his part for the most part this season up until that one. 3 runs allowed over the course of an inning of work. You had Uriel Rodriguez, only led in 3 innings, but they were 3 scoreless innings. Ryan Yarbrough, 2 to 3rd inning scoreless. Zach Pop gives up an unearned run in 2/3 of an inning of work. Brendan Little, 2 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Tommy Nance, and out of the bullpen scoreless before Chad Green gives up that bomb that turned out to be the difference. The Milwaukee Brewers and the Cincinnati Reds played a long one, and for Cincinnati, they were on to a 4-3 win over the Brewers in extra innings. For the Brewers, one of your best over teams in all baseball, 73 overs, 54 unders, and 10 pushes, but not a lot doing here. They were able to get to the starter in Brandon Williamson. Gives up 2 runs in 3 1/3 innings, including a home run to Willie Thomas, 28th home run of the season. From there, 1 run given up in 3 2/3 innings out of Jacob Junis, so piggyback effort there. Brent Suter, 3 scoreless innings, and Alexis Diaz, he lends a scoreless inning as well, as the Reds win this game despite leaving 12 men on base and going 1 of 12 men in scoring position, as Jake Fraley gets his 4th home run season. That comes off of Tobias Myers. Myers gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in 5 2/3 innings before Jared Koenig lends a scoreless inning, and you had Bryce Wilson have this be his game. He was able to go 3 2/3 innings up until the 11th inning, giving up an unearned run, as for the Brewers, they go 2 of 10 with men in scoring position, so not a lot doing with men on base for either of those teams. But a whole lot doing for the Miami Marlins with men in scoring position. They take down the San Francisco Giants by a count of 7-5, as Kyle Stowers is able to get a home run off of Jacob Webb. That is a rarity. 3rd home run of the campaign for Webb. He gives up for his career about 0.4 home runs per 9 innings at home, and he gave up 6 runs in 6 innings before Camilo Duvall gives up a run in an inning. Eric Miller, Landon Ropp, they both lend a scoreless inning, and for the Giants, you did have Mike Yastrzemski go deep in this one. 12th home run of the season. That was a leadoff home run off of Darren McCoggan, who gave up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in his 4 innings of work. Kent Emanuel gives up a run in a 1/3 of an inning before Xavier Curry gets 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Mike Baumann, John McMillan, Calvin Fauché, they're all able to end a scoreless inning. And if you're taking a look at what we're getting in baseball right now, we have been seeing quite a few overs this far this season, with the hit rate on overs being in that neighborhood about 50.5 to 50.6% with 1,001 overs. So we have reached the I guess you call it 1,000 mark with regards to overs to 978 unders. Favorites overall this season hitting at about 57.4%, 1,172 and 869 on the money line. If you're looking at the last 30 days in baseball, favorites hitting at north of 60%, 244 and 161 on the money line. Meanwhile, the overs, they are just about 50% this time span, 196 overs to 192 unders. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Sunday. Now, let's take a look at the landscape of baseball, the NL East race, the Philadelphia Phillies, and so much more with Jon Janesn of Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler. He joins me next on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is always great to be joined by this man, as Jon Janesn. He does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler. You're able to catch his show/podcast, The Line Change, over there. On top of that, I know that he's doing a great job with the college football slate. He is a registered Heisman voter, and we saw a tremendous college football Saturday as well. So he's covering it all out there in Philadelphia. And you're able to follow him on Twitter/X at the letter J, his last name Jansen, Jansen, the number 34, all together. And Jon, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And of course, we're getting to the last month of regular season baseball. So season winding down, playoff races heating up. Certainly a good time. And of course, we get football as well with all of it. So good time for sports for sure.
Our two teams hooking up in Brazil to start the year, which I never thought we would see a Brazilian Green Bay versus Philadelphia game, but there's that. And I can assure you the Philadelphia Phillies here in 2024 will not be playing any of their games in Brazil. They
No.
will be
Yeah.
hitting the road a little bit, but they won't be playing any of their games in Brazil. And just how do you take a look at this team right now? One where I feel like the bottom guys have really risen up and the top guys have been letting them down a little bit.
Yeah, that's really the big thing right now. The top of the lineup mostly Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper's OPS is finally down below 900. And I think the one concerning thing is he talked about he's been kind of dealing with wrist and elbow discomfort. Now, the good thing is the elbow doesn't seem like it's related to Tommy John surgery that he had last year, but it's certainly something that is concerning that he's been dealing with an injury. I think he said maybe since May. So the power numbers have been a little bit down. The fact that his OPS, again, is below 900. He's making decent contact, but it's the power numbers that are really concerning. So that's the real concerning part. The good thing is, though, is those guys have been performing so well in the playoffs. Kyle Schwarber has been great in the playoffs for the Phillies. Trey Turner has been great in the postseason for the Phillies, and so is Bryce Harper. So the fact that these guys do have some good pedigree when it comes to postseason play, it doesn't concern me too much. But right now, yes, that is the biggest issue. The other one would be Ranger Suarez, his second start, not looking too great. Second start back from injury. That's another one to kind of look out for. But I think after a few starts, he should be fine once he gets his kind of feet under him and kind of back into a rhythm again. But it's the top of the lineup. Yeah, that's really hurting them right now. The good thing is, though, I think all of those guys come playoff time should be playing good.
Yep, I think so as well. And Will Wesson, my goodness, he has come from absolutely nowhere whatsoever, in my opinion. And he's been able to put up some tremendous numbers for this team. So that is going to be fun to take a look at. And what else I think is very interesting is his bullpen as well. Because if you look at the overall season numbers, they're not too bad. But here in the second half of the campaign, it has been a little bit rough. Now, albeit the moves that they made at the trade deadline, I really do think that helped them out quite a bit because Gregory Soto, Sir Anthony Dominguez, not looking so great with Baltimore, while Carlos Estevez, Tanner Banks, the two guys that took over for them. Amazing would be an overstatement, but they've been functional, and I think that that's a big concern for this team because when it comes to pitching, it has been all sorts of inconsistent.
Yeah, it has been. And really, the bullpen, especially the high leverage guys in the bullpen, have been really consistent for the most part this season. But it was post All-Star break. We kind of saw, and it was going to happen because they had ERAs that were almost even sub-1. So Matt Strahm and Jeff Hoffman were going to regress at some point. But they've actually been really encouraged the last about week or so. They've actually looked really good, both Hoffman and Strahm. Like, the stuff wasn't bad. They were going to get some bad luck stuff. They've had so much good luck throughout the season. So bad luck stuff was going to happen, and it did after the All-Star break. But the good thing is it seems like they're coming out of it, and they still seem to have some excellent stuff. Hoffman, in particular, came in for a save for the Phillies against the Braves on Thursday, and the stuff was electric. So the fact that Strahm and Jeff Hoffman seem like they're coming out of whatever slump they're in, I think Carlos Estevez is actually a little shaky when he first got to Philly, but has looked good, and you can tell he's going to be a high-leverage guy. I think really the biggest question is, if you need to go a bit deeper into your bullpen, you need to dig into guys number 4 and 5. Who is that? Because Alvarado's been kind of struggling. He's also been injured, and I think he's coming back very soon. But Alvarado's been struggling. But Ryan Kerkering seems to also be figuring it out. His numbers have never been bad, but he's been very inconsistent when it comes to throwing strikes. But even he's kind of figured that out just recently. So it does look like they're kind of getting their answer a little bit, who number 4 could be. And if there needs to be, another reliever they can rely on, Ryan Kerkering seems to be kind of becoming that guy. And you just hope eventually maybe Alvarado just figures it out. But yeah, it seems like they have, to me, 4 really great bullpen arms that they can rely on. And that's great to have in the postseason.
Yep, that is amazing for them. And I do think that if they can just figure it out with those guys that have been pretty rock solid all season long, they are going to be in very good shape, as Jon Jansen, who does such amazing work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler, is joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And they are going to be starting up a set on Tuesday with the Blue Jays. A little bit of an off day on Monday, but how do you take a look at a series like this against a Blue Jays team that we know that they're out of the playoff race, but they've been still giving a good effort. They've still been trying to be able to inch their way back to 500. And for the Phillies, as we're doing this show/podcast, as of right now, they're a little bit to be determined with regards to their pitcher.
Yeah, they are, because Taijuan Walker has been moved to the bullpen. So
rightfully so.
Rightfully so. Yes, rightfully so. Honestly, I'm surprised he's even still in the roster, but it makes sense. Look, you're going to need an arm to eat up innings, and I think that's kind of what they look at Walker as now. Just a guy that if they're getting blown out or whatever the case may be, they just need somebody to eat up a few innings. Walker was going to have to do that no matter what because he's getting paid so much money, and he's just at least an arm you can put out there. So that's kind of what his role has been reduced to. they're going to kind of figure it out. I know they've been using Colby Allard a lot. Mercado, I think his name is, too, from AAA. They've been using along with Tyler Phillips. Phillips is kind of having arm fatigue, so I'm not sure if they're going to use him again this season. No, but still, yeah, they're kind of figuring out the back end of the starting rotation. So with the 2-game series of the Blue Jays, I mean, it's really tough because you're just getting out of what is a very, very pivotal Atlanta series and a 4-game series. So a long, grueling series over the weekend, and then all of a sudden you have to go to Toronto. So it's very tough. Still, I think coming up, though, it's a road trip coming up, but against the Blue Jays, who, as you just said, they're not playing bad. They're not rolling over and dying. They're playing well, or at least playing hard and still playing somewhat good baseball. But that's a team we should beat. So they have an opportunity here with the Blue Jays coming at the Marlins, and really through the month of September. The Tampa Bay Rays are just okay. The Mets have not been playing all that well. Really, the toughest opponent in the month of September is just the Brewers. Other than that, you have teams almost out of the playoff race. The Mets, the Cubs, the Nationals, the Blue Jays, the Rays. It's certainly an opportunity. For as bad as August was, September really seems like the month that they can start to pull away again, maybe start to find the rhythm again. I don't think the NL East is going to be in question, but I think this is the month where maybe they can get things going again and they can end up eventually getting a 1 or 2 seed in the National League.
Yep, I do think that would be pretty important for them, and it is going to be so interesting to look at these playoff races in the National League as well, because everything is up for grabs in terms of those 1 through 3 seeds, and I would say both the National League and the American League. You don't necessarily have that one dominant team this season, and if you're a team like the Philadelphia Phillies, would you rather be at a bye, or would you rather be one of those teams that is fighting in the wild card? And I mean, for a lot of people are thinking, oh, of course you want the bye, but the last 2 seasons since this new format has taken form, the teams that have gotten the bye have been just completely ousted right away. And last year we saw a Rangers versus Diamondbacks World Series. So I do think that it's a very interesting conundrum for these teams that are going to be towards the top of the National and the American leagues.
Yeah, and the team that's really been, I think, the poster child for what is these wild card teams making these big runs, it's been the Phillies. They've been really good in the wild card round, and it's kind of given them the momentum, I guess. But they've been able to go to a World Series, go to a National League Championship Series, and it's all coming from the wild card round. But the thing is, they do seem to be well in the wild card round, I think mostly because of their top end starting rotation. But yeah, I think because of the injuries and things like that, I just wouldn't want to take it. Look, you're avoiding what is a random, and I think the Phillies are a good example of it. As you said, Texas, Arizona. The reason why those teams can win, it's such a random series. 3 games is so random in baseball, and taking some of the randomness out of it, I think it's too much of a small sample size to really just say, hey, having that bye week's really bad because you're taking too much time off. Guys get out of rhythm because of the bye. But to me, I just want so much of the randomness taken out. Baseball's already a random sport. If I can take a little bit out of it, I think that's more important. So I think it is important for the Phillies. For as much as they are a great example of a wild card team that can make a deep run, I think it would actually be maybe a good thing. They could be the first example of a team with a bye week or a bye round to be able to move on and get to a National League Championship Series, get to a World Series and win it. I just think it'll benefit them. And also because they've had some injuries at the starting rotation. We just mentioned as well, Bryce Harper's been injured. So I think time off would really do some good for them as well.
Yep, and it's so interesting in baseball. It is a little bit more of a momentum-driven sport than, say, the NFL, and I do think that looking forward, we should be seeing more of these teams that are able to get the buys be more successful than they've been in the first 2 years. Because
I think it eventually will happen, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you just get a small sample size, which this is, in 2 years, a small sample size, and you just get some outliers there. It's Jon Jansen, who does tremendous work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And just how do you take a look at things now that we have reached September in baseball, with there being about 4 or so weeks remaining in the regular season? And I'm going to call it what it is. Other than the NL Central, it feels like every single one of these divisions and every one of these wild card spots is up for grabs.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll tell you what, maybe I've overlooked them all season, and I even continue to just not have as much faith in Milwaukee. But at some point, the consistency, you just have to applaud how consistent Milwaukee has been and maybe look at them as more of a threat than I am. It's just because they don't have what you would consider really elite top-end talent like the Dodgers do, or even the Phillies do, with Bryce Harper and Trey Turner and Kyle Schwarber and the starting rotation, especially with Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. Like, there's just not the names that you see from those 2 teams in Milwaukee, but they are just so consistent. And I don't think it's an accident. They have the best run differential in baseball. I really don't know how they got to this place. I really don't know how they've been able to be so consistent, because I thought this year was going to be a bit of a down year for them. But applaud them. And, maybe this is a team we're overlooking a little bit. But yeah, the rest of Major League Baseball to be so wide open. To answer your question, I don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the league. I just think you have to applaud, and also, I guess for me, be a little bit more aware that Milwaukee has actually been so good. They're one of the few teams that have actually been able to just lock up their division so quickly. Out of everything, I've just been so impressed. And maybe overlooking a bit what Milwaukee's done this season.
Yeah, with Milwaukee, they have just found a way in general. It's not necessarily one thing that has been amazing, but they just find a way to be able to get the job done time and time again. And just moving forward in terms of the next few days, is there perhaps a series or two that you're going to be looking to this week that you want to gauge? As we are doing this before a lot of the Monday games have numbers up, and we do have a lot of TBD pitching matchups, including the one with the Phillies and the Toronto Blue Jays. We should know a little bit after this podcast. But that said, anything that you're looking at for this week that is going to be of intrigue that you're really going to be keeping your eyes on?
Yeah, I think one of the easy ones to look at, definitely the Diamondbacks and Dodgers, because the Diamondbacks have really come on strong post All-Star break. And that's a team that kind of, talking about the wildcard teams, and I think the wildcard teams, we should look at them. And because there's been so much success, we should be looking at a team. Who's the next Texas Rangers? Who's the next Arizona Diamondbacks? Who's potentially the next Phillies as well from 2022? And to me, Arizona could potentially be one of those teams. So for them to go up to a series against the Dodgers, maybe make some noise, and obviously the Dodgers are going to win that division. I think it's almost locked up. Look, this maybe could get them a little bit close. But I think for Arizona, it's just to see, are they that competitive? Can they beat the Dodgers in a series at home and look like what could potentially be, I think, a wild card team that makes it out of the wild card round and potentially into an NLCS and potentially, back to a World Series. Arizona's been coming on strong. It's a good barometer, again, I think, for just to see where they're at right now and if they are a legit contender in the National League.
Yep, I think that this is going to be a fun week in general for baseball. We've got some teams with difficult schedules, some teams with a little bit of easier schedules, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, I think that it's so important for them as their schedule does ease up a little bit more here in September. They're going to be getting the Marlins, they're going to be getting the Toronto Blue Jays here this week, and then more like the Rays next week. It does get a little bit tougher towards back half of September, but to take care of the games that they do need to take care of as well, because a lot of people are kind of probably going to be looking at these teams like the Marlins, the Blue Jays, what have you, as easy wins. But I feel like we both know that some of these teams that might be having these September call-ups, I look at a team in particular in the Nationals, and these are teams that can be a little bit pesky this time of year as well.
Yeah, they can. But the thing is, if you're a good team like the Phillies, that shouldn't matter all that much, and they're going to be playing for something. They're really going to be playing for a seed. But it does soften up, as you just said. It could be pesky. All these call-ups that are happening. Washington's already called up Dylan Cruz. Miami, they got Connor Norby from Baltimore, and he's been really good for them. These teams are kind of gaining players, and they're definitely going to be a bit pesky, as you said. But still, this lightens up so much compared to what they dealt with in the month of August and even post All-Star break in July. I think it's a really good, almost a reset for the Phillies. Find themselves again, start to get winning streaks together. You should be able to beat the Marlins, on the road. You should be able to beat the Cubs, Nationals, even the New York Mets, the way they're playing right now. It feels like an opportunity. For as pesky as those teams could be, it just feels like an opportunity compared to what they've had for the last couple of months. And I think it's something that, they can really take advantage of, because they've not only, again, just getting the seed, but just kind of finding themselves again, finding that same team that was playing excellent at the start of the season for the first 2 or 3 months of the year. I think it does present itself as maybe a great opportunity in September to get going again.
Yep, absolutely. And John, I know that you're doing such a great job taking a look at the game of baseball and really covering all the bases. The NFL back in our lives in a matter of days. You do a great job on the college football side of things, but all throughout the year, you do amazing work on the baseball front as well. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you can just follow me at Jansen34. Starting to put out some college football plays. Had an okay weekend, had a solid weekend of college football plays. That's also where you can find NFL plays as well. Also, as we get closer to Major League Baseball in the playoffs, all that stuff. So, yeah, just follow me at JJansen34 on Twitter. That's where you can see all my stuff. And also at Fox PHL Gambling.
And John does such an amazing job taking a look at this game of baseball and always makes us smarter on this podcast. So big thanks to John for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. They give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Jon Janesn, who does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. Every single time he joins me, lends such great insights, and did so once again today. So big thanks to Jon for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at GNR41. We're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and the Intra-League games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So we'll get things started with 901, 902 on the betting board. The St. Louis Cardinals are on the road facing off against the Milwaukee Brewers. Freddie Peralta goes for the Crew, and Andre 3000 Palante is on the bump for St. Louis. St. Louis is an underdog of between plus 142 to a plus 152, minus 165 to minus 170. That's your number on the Crew, and 8 is the total. Unders between minus 110 to a minus 115. Overs between minus 105 to a minus 110. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Brewers, you're going to be finding that at a plus 125, seeing a plus 130 out there as well. Plus 125 was my absolute minimum buy point, and we have a minute, so I'm going to be taking a look at the Crew on the run line. As for the Milwaukee Brewers, it's a case where Freddie Peralta just needs to keep control of the walks. For Peralta, that's always where things go wrong with him. He's posting up an ERA of a 370, fielding independent, very much in line with that, but a little bit north of 3 walks per 9 innings. The strikeouts are still there. He's been able to get right around about 10.5 to 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, and for Peralta, has been actually a little bit worse at home rather than on the road. 3.97 home ERA, closer to a 3.39 ERA on the road, with the deep ball really being what's hurt him, as he's given up 14 home runs in 79 and a third innings at home this season, but goes up against the Cardinals team that entered in the weekend against the New York Yankees in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game on the road, and towards the bottom of the league in terms of home runs, but we saw them be able to flip the switch against the New York Yankees. Don't know if you're going to get as much of that moving forward, as Alec Burleson, Paul Goldschmidt are both giving you 20 plus home runs, and Nolan Gorman has given you 19 home runs, but Nolan Gorman has pretty much been relegated out of the lineup at this point, and for Goldschmidt, 300 on base. You've had Burleson along with Mason Wynn be able to hit in that neighborhood about a 280, so like what they're doing there. Nolan Arenado has not been able to hit for a ton of power. You expect a little bit more than 15 home runs, but has been able to hit for about a 270, and then the likes of Lars Nootbaar have been able to move the line a little bit, but do have a little bit more faith in the Milwaukee Brewers. Getting to Andre Palante, who's been very good at keeping the ball in the yard. 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 6 bombs at a little bit north of 92 innings, and comes in having given up 2 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 4 starts, but he's only getting about 6.5 strikeouts to 3.5 walks per 9 innings, and you've got a Brewers unit that just has so many guys that do a great job of being able to move the line. William Contreras has been chief among them, 20 bombs, about a 360 on base, but then you just have a poo-poo platter of different guys with between about a 320 to a 340 on base. Willie Adames, even Andrew Marisario, Sal Frelick, Jackson Chourio, Blake Perkins, Joey Ortiz. All these guys have been able to do a solid job there. And for Chourio, here in the second half of the season, has really been able to kick it up last 30 days, hitting north of a 320 with 5 home runs, and been able to get quite a bit of power as well out of Rhys Hoskins, who's up to north of 20 home runs this year, while Willie Adames is up to 28 bombs. And both of these bullpens rock solid, both in the top 5 in the National League in terms of ERAs. For the Brewers, they were able to save a lot of their bullpen despite going to extra innings yesterday with Jarrett Koenig, Trevor McGill, Brian Hudson, all guys with a sub-3.5 ERA being available, and Devin Williams. He's back. He's been pretty solid on that front end for the St. Louis Cardinals. Has been a little bit touch and go towards this team, as you've got the likes of Jojo Romero, Ryan Helsley, John King being able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA, and I like what I'm seeing out of Ryan Fernandez and Andrew Kittredge as well, but I do think that for Andre Palante, we're going to be seeing quite a bit of regression, and I do think that this is one of these circumstances where we're going to see the Brewers be able to take it out on him. So at a plus 125 or higher, I do like the run line, and did set my total at an 8.7. I'm on the over as well, 903, 904 on the betting board. The LA Dodgers hit the road to face off against the Orioles, and the Diamondbacks. Eduardo Rodriguez goes for the Saints, and Captain Jack Flaherty's on the bump for Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a favorite of anywhere between minus 132 to a minus 142, between plus 118, plus 124. That number on Arizona, 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 120, and the under is even I set the Dodgers at a minus 134 on the money line, so you're at about a 132, minus 133. I'm going to be willing to take them. I don't want the run line in this case, even though the Dodgers are very notorious for being able to cover the run line, as I do think that this is going to be a little bit more of a difficult circumstance against a Diamondbacks team that is number one in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. But if someone's going to be able to shut them down, it's Captain Jack Flaherty, about a 307 ERA, 330 fielding dependent. He's been giving up fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings, a little bit over 11 strikeouts per 9. He's had a little bit of an issue giving up the deep ball. He's been giving up about 1.3 or so home runs per 9 innings, but overall has been tremendous on the road. 255 road ERA this season, giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. And for Eduardo Rodriguez, just don't necessarily love the form that he's in right now. I thought that it was a little bit befuddling that he decided to not have any minor league rehab appearances coming back, and has given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. He is down a little bit in terms of strikeout numbers, 16 strikeouts in 21 1/3 innings after throughout his career being more of a 9 strikeout per 9 inning guy. And for the LA Dodgers, do have to have a little bit of trepidation with regards to the bullpen, but you've had a lot of guys just be able to go out there and give you a really good performances. Alex Vesia, Anthony Banda, both being able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Michael Kopech as a Dodger is at a sub-1 ERA, and even though they had Justin Robelski get completely destroyed yesterday, they used up more of their less than trustworthy relievers. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, you've been able to get AJ Puck really to be able to elevate this bullpen. He, Justin Martinez, Ryan Thompson, I'll give you a sub-3.3 ERA in this bullpen. Dylan Floro has been a little bit touch and go, but do like what I'm seeing out of Kevin Ginkel as well. And for the Diamondbacks, despite the fact that Ketel Marte and Christian Walker, your top 2 home run hitters, are currently out of the lineup, they just continue to find a way to have all of these guys doing a nice job moving the line, getting on base. As now it's Ore Barrosa who's giving you a bit of something, as he, Kevin Newman, Geraldo Perdomo, Lourdes Gurriel, Alonso Grichuk, lying in that neighborhood about at 273 to 280. Jock Peterson, north of 20 home runs, a 400 on base. Jake McCarthy, 20 stolen bases. He's hitting at 300 as well. And then, Ketel Marte of the Marte Party, when they can get him back, as he should be out probably the next week or so, has been hitting darn near 300. But for the LA Dodgers, do think that they persevere here because they've been able to get more of those, shall we say, less than trustworthy bats out of the lineup, with Mookie Betts being back. He's been able to supply the team with a 390 on base. And Max Muncy, his return has been big already, a pair of home runs for this team. So when you were having James Outman along with Kike Hernandez, guys like this, Chris Taylor in the lineup, it was a little bit rough 7 through 9. Now they've only got like one untrustworthy bat in the lineup, and I do think that that's going to allow them to be able to get to Arizona. You've got Shohei Ohtani, who continues to give you 40+ home runs, 40+ stolen bases. Freddie Freeman has been able to continue to supply with about a 380 on base. And Teoscar Hernandez post also break double-figure amount of homers, hitting right around about a 265 for the year. So did set the Dodgers at a minus 134. I'm going to be willing to back them on the money line. I did set myself at 8.4, so at the 8.5, also like the under. 9-5, 9-6 on the betting board. The Chicago Cubs do play out the Pittsburgh Pirates. Jared Jones is on the bump for Pittsburgh, and Jameson Taillon going for the Cubs. Cubs do find themselves as a minus 137 to a minus 140 favorite, between plus 120 and plus 125. That number on Pittsburgh. We are starting to see a few openers with regards to total, despite the fact that it is a Wrigley Field game, and right now seeing it at a 7.5. The under is minus 120 and the over is even, and I set a pretty low total myself. I set my total at 6.8, so I'm very willing to dive in on the under. If you're looking at the wind situation for Wrigley Field, looks like it should be blowing in right around about 7 to 8 miles per hour, so not like it's an end-all be-all situation, but certainly that is a pretty good amount of wind out there at Wrigley, so do like the under on 7.5. And when it comes to Jared Jones, I can only set him at a plus 149, so I'm going to be willing to lay it with the Chicago Cubs for Jared Jones. It's been a relatively solid rookie season for him, but his first start coming off the injury list got blown up for 5 runs in 4 innings against the Chicago Cubs. That was a game that was very harebrained, as last series between these two, you just had things be very overwhelming to say the least. But for Jones, he's been rock solid overall for the season. About a 4 fielding dependent, 388 ERA, 9.5 strikeouts, 2.8 walks per 9 innings. The deep ball has been hurting him a little bit, giving up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, gave up 2 bombs against the Cubs in the last matchup, but I do think that he's going to be able to straighten things up, and I do think that the wind blowing in is going to help him out. And for James Taillon, we're starting to see a lot of regression with him. 4+ runs given up in each out of his last 4 starts, including against the Pittsburgh Pirates, but I do think that he's going to be able to hold it down against a Pirates team that's been one of the worst in all baseball in terms of generating runs. For Taillon, not getting an impressive amount of strikeouts by any stretch, 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but also giving up less than 2 walks per 9 innings. Has been hurt a little bit by the deep ball, giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, but gets to go up against against a Pirates team that is in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of home runs out of per at-bat and a per-game basis. You've got a quartet of guys with at least 16 home runs this season, as you've got Brian Reynolds, Brian De La Cruz, O'Neill Cruz, along with Andrew McCutcheon, all being able to slug out the deep ball. And for O'Neill Cruz, he's up to hitting about a 275, hitting well above a 300 over the last 30 days. Brian Reynolds has been able to give you about a 350 on base, and Rowdy Tellez, ever since the All-Star break, hitting above a 300, but still have quite a few guys at the bottom of the lineup. Henry Davis, Jaywan Bay, guys like this, hitting below a 200, and yes, Monty Grandal at a 215. Meanwhile, for the Chicago Cubs, they've really done a nice job of being able to hit with men on base over the last few days, as the big reason why they've been able to have a little bit of a reversal is that the guys at the bottom of the lineup, Pete Crow Armstrong, Dansby Swanson, Miguel Amaya, have all been able to hit over the last few days. These are all guys now hitting above a 235 after they were really struggling about a month or so ago. And then you couple that with just having the guys at the top of the lineup continue to be constants for this team, as Isaac Paredes has really not done a lot for the Chicago Cubs at this point. But so regardless, he, C.A. Suzuki, Michael Busch, Ian Happ, a bunch of guys with 16 plus home runs, bunch of guys giving you north of a 330 on base. Not as many home runs out of Cody Bellinger, but still able to hit for about a 265 with 14 bombs, so he's been able to do his part. And Christian Bethancourt, in a very small sample size, has all of a sudden gotten hot. He's hitting darn near a 400 in 12 games with the Cubs, so that has been big. And you also have a Cubs bullpen that is number one in the big leagues in terms of ERA ever since the beginning of the month of July. You've been able to get so much production out of Porter Hoge as a long guy with a sub-3 ERA. They got Hector Nerisek out of there, so that was very helpful for this team as well. You've had Jorge Lopez along Tyson Miller, two guys that they picked up here mid-season, be able to supply a sub-3 ERA as well. And then on the flip side, you've got a core in the Pittsburgh Pirates as in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. You've been able to have Carmen Maldazinski give you a sub-3.5 ERA, but for David Benner, struggle has been real with north of a 6 ERA. Dennis Santana not really giving you too much production. Roldis Chapman has been a little bit better, so that's been able to help them out. But I do think that in the end, you should be able to get the Cubs to be able to get the job done, and I think that this is going to be a low-scoring game with a wind blowing in, and Pirates not providing a lot in terms of the power department. So semi-total at 6.8. I do like the under, and I do like the money line of the Cubs, as if you're looking to lay a run half right now, you're going to be able to get a nice plus number, but I'd rather stick with the minus 137 money line, set the Cubs at a minus 149. 907, 908 on the main board. The Washington Generals, aka the Chicago White Sox, are on the road against the Baltimore Orioles. Corbin Burns is on the bump for the Orioles. Chris Flexen is on the bump for the White Sox. The human white flags are between a plus 285 to a plus 310 underdog, between minus 360 to minus 385. That number on Baltimore, if you're looking to lay run half with Baltimore, you find that at about a minus 155. I'm seeing now a lot of minus 165, minus 170 popping up as well, and total is 8.5. The under is between minus 110 to a minus 120. The over is between even a minus 110, and I set my run line price at a minus 173. As long as you can pretty much keep it at a minus 170 or better, we'll want to lay the run line for Chris Flexen. He's made 28 appearances for the Chicago Cubs. The team is 2-26 in those appearances, and on top of that, all but 2 of those losses have been by multiple runs. Like, it is just absolutely ridiculous what we're seeing right now from the Chicago White Sox team, as Flexen, he's just about as milquetoast bad as a game. He's not explosively bad like Patrick Corbin, who just absolutely lights games on fire, but I mean, he gets 6.5 strikeouts, a 3.7 walks per 9 innings, 5.29 ERA, 4.89 fielding dependent. It's not like he's the worst pitcher in the league, but he's certainly not good. And then for Corbin Burns, he has been getting lit up quite a bit recently. Gave up 6 runs in his last start, and he has given up a 5 spot in each out of his last 3, but only one of which was earned in his last start. That was mainly because you had a just bunch of tomfoolery out there in the field behind him. But for Burns, his strikeout numbers are way down. He's hardly getting above 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. As maybe we'll keep the walks down. He's only giving out about 2.2 walks per 9 innings, but do have to have a little bit of trepidation there. But the good news is he gets to go up against the Chicago White Sox team that has absolutely nobody hitting right now. You've got Andrew Benintendi, Luis Robert, and also Andrew Vaughn, who've all been able to fly between 14 and 15 home runs thus far this season, but you just don't have anyone that's hitting above a 245. You don't have anyone that's giving you north of about a 310 on base, as well as you've got so many guys at the bottom of the lineup for the Chicago White Sox. Just a poo-poo bladder of guys like Brooks Baldwin and company that are just doing a big giant nothing burger. And then on the flip flip side for the Baltimore Orioles, they have been going through a few injuries with Jordan Westburg, Ryan Mountcastle being out of the lineup, but you've been able to have Anthony Santander supply 38 home runs. Gunnar Anderson, he's at 33 plus home runs. Henderson continues to give you north of a 360 on base. Been a little bit touch and go for Adley Rushman recently, but he's at north of 13 home runs. He's been able to give you north of a 335 on base. They've been dealing with injury after injury, as I believe now Ramon Urias is on the injured list as well. But despite that, and despite the Baltimore Orioles not necessarily having the world's greatest bullpen, as Ynier Cano, he's been able to give you a 3 ERA, but you've been having Gregory Soto certainly acting up. Bert Smith has not been able to cut it. Do like what Sir Anthony Dominguez has been doing, though, as Sir Anthony Dominguez, ever since coming over to Baltimore, a sub 3 ERA, has blown a few saves, but oh no, I like what he's doing. Still like a lot better, once again, than the Chicago White Sox, who's been throwing out their Tuki Toussaint with north of a 5 ERA. Aniel De Los Santos has had one of the more miserable years that you're going to find in all baseball. They now employ him. You've had really nobody other than Jared Schuster step up in this bullpen, and with the Chicago White Sox over the last 60 days, ever since the beginning of the month of July, this is a unit that has north of a 5.75 bullpen ERA. So I do think that the Orioles going to be able to get to him here, but I will like the under here as well, just because I don't think that the White Sox do their part on this total. They're averaging about 3 runs per contest, so I told it at 8.3, looking at the under and the Orioles on the run line. 9.09, 9.10 on the betting board. You've got the Cleveland Guardians on the road facing off against the Kansas City Royals as Michael Wacha, and if he gets blown up here, it's a dying Pac-Man voice. Michael Wacha, 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 boom, boom. He goes for the Royals, and Gavin Williams is on the bum for the Guardians. The Guardians find themselves as very slight underdogs. You're going to be getting them between plus 102 to a minus 105, between minus 110 to minus 115. That number on Kansas City, 8.5 to 8 is the total. On the 8, over is minus 120. The under is even on the 8.5. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. The opener was 9, and on the opener of 9, I was willing to take a shot on the under. Now we've just gone a little bit too far, especially with the 8 that I'm seeing at circa. For Michael Wacha, he's been able to do a solid job of just doing his part. He's not doing anything overly amazing, but he's getting about 7.5 strikeouts to 2.5 walks per 9 innings. 350 ERA, 378 fielding dependent. Did get blown up in his last start on the road against the Guardians, so have quite a few series involving teams that just played each other, but prior to that, 2 earned runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 4 starts. And when it comes to the flip side for the Cleveland Guardians, it's been a little bit of a rough ordeal for our good friend and Mr. Gavin Williams, but for Williams, he's posting up an ERA that is well north of a 7 when he's at home. On the road, it's a little bit closer to 3, so he's been very inconsistent with that regard. He's getting a lot of swings and misses, 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but a 4.99 ERA compared to a fielding independent of a 3.82 is he's not really giving up too much of the long ball. A home run per 9 innings, but was really killing him, and so 3.6 walks per 9 innings. Comes in having given up 3+ runs, and now 3 out of his last 5 starts. And for the Cleveland Guardians, big issue that I've got with his team right now is that they just rely upon Josh Naylor and Jose Ramirez for everything in this lineup. North of 60 home runs, they've supplied about 195 RBI between the two, and both are between about a 320 to a 335 on base, but you're going to need a few guys to step up around them, as Stephen Kwan is hitting below a 225 over the last 45 days. We have really seen things toiletable on him. It's been a very good run of things for John Kenzie Noel, being able to supply a home run every about 10.5 or so at bats ever since he got called up to the big league level, as he's giving north of 320 on base. David Fry about a 360 on base, and then you've got a lot of guys that need to pick it up a little bit. Austin Hedges, whenever he's at the catcher spot, if it's on him, it's Bo Naylor, Brian Rocchio, Tyler Freeman, guys like this. Hitting at 215 or lower, though, the Guardians can have a big leg up in terms of bullpen. Number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA. So many guys like Eli Morgan, Tim Herron, Hunter Gaddis, Kate Smith, all being able to supply a sub-3 ERA and then get the ball to Emmanuel Clase with a sub-1 ERA. And for the Royals, they're currently dealing with Lucas Erceg, dealing with a little bit of an injury. Sammy Long has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, though. Chris Stratton, John Schreiber, these guys have been rough, to say the least. They've given you north of a 3.5 ERA, and James McArthur has as well. But I do think that you get a good start here out of Walk, and I do think that the struggles for Gavin Williams in terms of command especially are going to manifest themselves against a Kansas City Royals unit that has been a little bit top-heavy themselves, but a Kansas City Royals team that has throughout the season been relatively top-heavy with the lineup with Salvador Perez, coupled with Bobby Witt Jr. combining for 55 home runs, and Bobby Witt Jr. just continuing it right around about a 350, giving you a 390 plus on base. But now you've been able to have some of the other guys be able to step up. Hunter Renfroe, Kyle Isbell, now instead of hitting like a 210 to a 215, they're hitting closer to a 230. MJ Melendez has been hitting north of 275 over the last 35 days, and you've got Darian Blanco at the bottom of the fold being able to get on base and move the line for this team. So going to be willing to take a shot here on the Royals, set them at a minus 138 on this money line, and did set my total at 8.6. Also going to be going with the over as we go to 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. The Minnesota Twins are on the road facing off against the Tampa Bay Rays. Zach Little hopes to come up big for the Rays, and Simeon Woods Richardson is on the bump for Minnesota. Minnesota, a slight favorite of between minus 107 to a minus 115. Minus 105 to even money is that number on Tampa Bay. 8 is the total. The over and the under are both at minus 110. And when it comes to Minnesota, set them at a minus 114. Wouldn't want to go past a minus 113. So where we're sitting right now, a lot of books have this at a minus 110. Going to be willing to lay that money line. Simeon Woods Richardson has been solid. Nothing amazing, nothing terrible. He's giving you about 8 strikeouts and 3 walks per 9 innings, 385 ERA, 404 fielding dependent. A little bit higher ERA when he's on the road, but has been pretty steady all season long. And then for Little, he's going to be making his first start in a few weeks as he was spending a bit of time on the injured list, but overall has been able to do a good job in terms of his command, as has been a significantly better pitcher when he's been at home rather than on the road, because he only gives out about 1.5 walks per 9 innings. He throws a lot of balls in the zone, so that puts the ball in play quite a bit, and Tampa Bay, quite a good pitcher's ballpark. 284 home ERA, 537 ERA on the road. At home, he's given up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings on the road. This expands to more like 1.6, 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, and with Little, he's been getting about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. So again, this is going to be his first start in, I would say, about 2.5 or so weeks. Last time he was out there was August 14, and for the Tampa Bay Rays, what is really just hurting them at this point, beyond Zach Little missing a little bit of time on the injured list, is the fact that you're just not getting these guys to be able to give you a lot of power, as you've got 3 guys on the roster with north of 11 home runs this year. Christopher Morel, who belted most of those home runs when he was a part of the Chicago Cubs. Jose Siri along with Brandon Lau. Lau has been able to hit about a 245, but in terms of Morel, Jose Siri, and then we'll throw in there a couple other guys as well. Johnny DeLuca, Alex Jackson. These are all guys hitting below the middle sign of 200. Taylor Walls as well. And then you've got Yandy Diaz, who is supplying about 11 home runs. I think he might be up to 12 now, actually, but 275 average. He's been able to do a pretty rock solid job on that front, but you need these other guys like Jared Calabreo and company to be able to give you a bit more as well. And then for the Minnesota Twins, even though they're quite banged up as well, Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa dealing with injuries, they've been able to get good production overall, as I really like what Matt Wallner has brought to the table. About a 380 on base. He's had 150 at-bats with 10 home runs, so he's been able to do a very rock-solid job there. Ryan Jeffers has been able to lead the way with 20 home runs, only about a 320 on base. Then you've got someone like a Willie Castro giving you about a 335 on base. You've got a lot of guys on this team that they're not amazing in terms of being able to find a way on, and with all the injuries, the power has certainly reduced. Royce Lewis was able to go deep yesterday, but he's been in a little bit of a funk as well, but certainly is more than what the Rays are throwing out there, though the Rays, since July 1st, number 1 in the American League in terms of their bullpen ERA. You've got so many guys that will be able to supply a sub-3.5 ERA for this team. Kevin Kelly, Garrett Clevenger, you've had Edwin Uceta, Manuel Rodriguez be able to really step up for this team. So do you think that it's going to be a bit of a lower scoring affair with the Twins? It's a middle of the road bullpen. Yohan Duran does not necessarily have the world's greatest ERA, but he's been able to do a nice job all season long. You've been able to get Griffin Jacks going, who's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Oriole Call has been a little bit up and down recently, but do like what they've been able to get as well out of Cole Sands, who's been able to lower that ERA to right around about a 3. So circumstance where I'm going to be taking a look at the under. I did set my total at a 7.8, and with the Twins, we'll go up to a minus 113 on that money line. 9-13, 9-14 on the betting board. The Oakland A's play host to the Seattle Mariners. Logan Gilbert is on the bump for Seattle, as Waldo Beto goes for Oakland. Oakland is an underdog of anywhere between plus 118 to a plus 128, between a minus 131 to a minus 142 is that number on Seattle. 7.5 is the total. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 115. Unders between minus 105 to a minus 110, and I do like this total under. Set my total at 7.2. Saw the Oakland A's have a massive dip in terms of their offensive numbers from July to August. They actually led the big leagues in terms of home runs in July. They were one of your top teams in terms of run scoring, and then they were in the bottom half of the big leagues last month. You've had Lawrence Butler do a really nice job of ascending here in the second half of the season. He's been up to right around about 20 home runs now. You've got Shea Langoliers, Brett Rooker, who have been able to combine for 56 home runs as well. But the problem is lots of solo home runs for this unit, as you've got the likes of Zach Aloff, Shea Langoliers, Dariel Hernandez, Des Cameron. These guys hitting at 222 or lower. Now, the good news for the Oakland A's is that their bullpen still rock solid, even though they've been dealing with a few injuries. You've got TJ McFarland back down to about a 3.90 ERA. Michael Otans, Mason Miller. These guys have been pretty rock solid. Otans is up to a little bit north of a 4 ERA, but really good swing and miss stuff. Mason Miller, he's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, and then likes of Tyler Ferguson have been able to step up. And for Beto, he's actually had a really nice season thus far. 3.21 ERA, doing a great job keeping the ball in the yard, giving up just 2 home runs in 56 innings, and his strikeout numbers are pretty solid as well. He gets 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. The one thing that does have me a little bit cautious, though, is that he is giving up darn near 4 walks per 9 innings. He's been quite good at home with a 3.03 ERA, going up against a Seattle Mariners bunch that they lead the big leagues in terms of strikeouts on a per at-bat and a per-game basis. Julio Rodriguez and Victor Robles, really the lone 2 guys in this lineup that will be able to hit north of a 250 this season. Justin Turner has come off of injury, and he's been able to look rock solid. Had a multi-home run game a few days ago, but do have a lot of guys that you just wish he would be able to give you a little bit more at the plate. Ori Polanco, Dom Canzone, Cal Raleigh. You've got just so many guys like the Mitches, Mitch Garver, Mitch Haniger, all hitting a 220 or lower. Raleigh has been able to supply the boom, though. 27 home runs. You've had 17 home runs out of Luke Raley as well. So the Seattle Mariners doing a good job being able to slug it deep as well in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis when they're on the road. They're a top 12 team. And for the Seattle Mariners, even though they're a little bit touchy in terms of bullpen, they've gotten some good innings out of Troy Taylor. Colin Snyder, Andres Munoz have been able to give you sub-3 ERA, like what I've seen out of JT Chargois this season as well, about a 2.30 ERA, even though Trent Thornton can be a little bit less trustworthy. Do you think that the Seattle Mariners could be able to get it done behind a guy, Logan Gilbert, who's been rock solid in terms of his home and road splits throughout his career, posting up a 3.09 ERA, certainly deserves better than a 7-10 record to go with it, as he's been giving up less than a home run per 9 innings. He's giving up fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings as well. The 3.09 ERA backed up to a relatively similar fielding dependent. I've seen a few road starts from him go just awry a little bit, but I do think that here in Oakland, which is a bit more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark, that's going to be lending to not a lot of run scoring, so some might tell at 7.2. I'm looking at the under, and set the Mariners at a minus 153. I like the Mariners on the money line to go along with this under. 9.15, 9.16 on the betting board. The New York Yankees are going to be on the road against the Texas Rangers, and Jack Leiter gets a start for the Rangers, and Garrett Cole is on the bump for the Yankees. Yankees are between minus 182 to minus 190 favorites, between plus 158 to a plus 168 is that number on Texas. 8.5 is the total. The over is between minus 120 to a minus 125. The under is anywhere between even and plus 105. I'm in on the over on this game. I set my total at a 9.1 as Jack Leiter, just not a guy that I want to be backing at this point. He's got immense talent. He's got quite a bit of upside. He has not been able to put it together at the big league level. Heck, in his start against the Chicago White Sox a few days ago, it was a little bit less than savory, as he's made 4 starts this season. He's got a 6.70 fielding independent and a 12.83 ERA. I think that we can assume that the ERA should be going downward a little bit, but 22 runs given up in 13 and a third innings. He's been dishing out 5.5 walks per 9 innings, giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings. This is a rough one, to say the least, and he's backed up by a bullpen that is in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've been able to have Kirby Yates be able to give you a sub-2 ERA, and you've been able to have good production of David Robertson, but when you're going to someone like a Grant Anderson, who's got north of a 7 ERA, Jose Leclerc has been hovering right around about a 5 all season long. That's a bit of an issue, and for the Yankees, they had a less than tremendous showing with their bullpen yesterday against the St. Louis Cardinals, but all in all, this has been about a middle-of-the-road league average bullpen, as I really like the fact that they've got Ron Metanaccio back. He's been able to supply a sub-3.5 ERA for this unit. Jake Cousins has been good along with Tommy Kahnle. Both of these guys give you a sub-3.5 ERA as well. Phil Beckford is someone that you just don't want to be messing with, but for Garrett Cole, he's been able to round into form as well. For Cole, 3.86 ERA overall for the season, but has now given up 3 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts. Here in that 5-start stretch, he's posting up an ERA more like a 193, and the swing and miss stuff, it is back as well. He's been able to get 10 strikeouts per 9 innings in this time span, and is backed up by a Yankees lineup that has seen Aaron Judge go cold. He hasn't been able to hit a home run in about a week, which for him is cold, but still have 51 home runs, a 460 on base. Juan Soto, 418 on base, 37 home runs, and being able to get Chad Chisholm back is massive. 9 home runs in his first 89 at-bats, with the team hitting well above a 300, so he's been a nice addition. Question is, what are you going to be able to get out of more of these, shall we say, ancillary pieces in the lineup, like Oswaldo Cabrera, Alex Verdugo, Gleyber Torres, Giancarlo Stanton, guys hitting between about a 234 to a 245, but they've been able to do a relatively okay job here from time to time, and I do think that they get to Jack Leiter Jr., and I do think that Leiter is going to be getting lightered up, but do think that the Rangers are going to be able to scratch across a few runs against Garrett Cole as well. It's been touch and go for this lineup. Josh Young has not necessarily been what he was a season ago coming off of injury, but continue to have Corey Seager slugging out 30 home runs, north of a 350 on base. Josh Smith, over the last 45 days, hitting below a 240. That's a little bit of an issue, and you do have quite a few guys that have just been a bit underachieving thus far this season. Travis Jankowski made a really nice catch against the Chicago White Sox to rob them of a win, but Jonah Heim, Leody Taveras, these are all guys hitting below a 230 with really not a lot of power, and then got the likes of Wyatt Langford, Ezekiel Duran, hitting in that pocket about a 240 to 245, so I do like the Yankees on the run line. I set them at a minus 121. Right now you're seeing a minus 120. Wouldn't want to go past a minus 120 on this run line, but want to go there semi-total at 9.1, so also in on the over. 917, 918 on the betting board. The Houston Astros are on the road. They're facing off against the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we are on to Cincinnati, who drops out there Julian Aguilar for their starting pitcher, and Justin Verlander goes for Houston. Houston, a minus 150 to a minus 165 favorite, plus 138 to plus 150. That number on Cincinnati, 9.5 is the total. Over and under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and your run line price on Houston is between minus 105 to a minus 108. Do not want to be going past a minus 108, as I did set my number at a minus 108, but could be willing to venture on that Astros run line with Justin Verlander. It's not been the same from this season, but he's still doing an okay job in terms of his command. About 8.5 strikeouts, 2.5 walks per 9 innings, has been just allowing much more of the deep ball this year, giving up north of 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, but gets to go up against a Cincinnati Reds team that honestly, it's not seen their production really tick up at all between their home and road splits. They're pretty much relatively equal in terms of their amount of runs per game, which is surprising because Cincinnati is known as a notorious hitter's ballpark, and they just haven't hit well there. You do have Spencer Steer, Jameer Candelario, Tyler Stevenson, all being able to supply between 18 to 20 home runs this season, with having Stevenson be able to supply about a 340 on base, Ellie De La Cruz 345 on base, north of 60 stolen bases, 22 home runs, but still have a lot of guys at the bottom of the lineup that they just aren't giving you too much. DJ Friedel, whenever he's been out there, along with Stuart Fairchild, Neovali Marte, got a lot of guys sitting in that neighborhood about a 215 or so. They do have Reese Hines back up at the big league level as well. That's nice to see, but for Aguilar, he's been pitching to a lot of contact as he's got 7 strikeouts in his 14 innings. I do think that we should be seeing a little bit of an increase there, but he has been really hurt by the deep ball, giving up 5 home runs in his first 14 total innings across 3 starts. His walks per 9 rate isn't bad, 4 walks in 14 innings, but overall it has been a little bit of a rough go of it to start with. I do think things get a little bit better against an Astros lineup that they just don't hit the same when they're on the road rather than at home. They're a bottom of the half big leagues team in terms of slugging percentage on the road, where they're a top 10 team at home. Alex Bregman has been dealing with a little bit of an injury, stuck on 21 home runs, so we shall see if he's able to get back out there, but you know what you're going to be able to get out of Jose Altuve, Jeremy Pena, pair of guys hitting north of a 270 with a combined 32 home runs. Yordan Alvarez continues to slug it out, 30 home runs, 400 on base. Yanier Diaz, he's hitting darn near 300 with 16 home runs as well. Been a bit touch and go at the bottom of the lineup. They no longer have Chas McCormick on the roster, but Victor Carantini has been about a 275. It's been touch and go with someone like a Trey Cabbage, Zach DeZenzo, but the Astros really 1 through, I would call it about 7, are pretty rock solid, and for both of these teams, they provide good bullpens. For the Astros, it's all about the Bryans, Brian King, Brian Abreu, along with Taylor Scott, Caleb Ort, be able to step up as well. All these guys supplying a sub-3.5 ERA, and even though Josh Hader has a propensity to give up the deep ball, he still has been able to supply well north of 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's still bolstering a sub-350 ERA despite that terrible start to the season. And for the Cincinnati Reds, Sam Moll, Buck Farmer, these 2 guys have been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. We've been able to get some relatively good production out of Tony Santin as well. He's posting up about a 2.35 ERA. They did use up quite a few guys in long relief yesterday, and Alexis Diaz, even though it's been a little bit better for him recently, about a 4.65 ERA. They could really use some length because this bullpen has been utilized quite a bit for bullpen games over the last few days, and they did play that double dip a few days ago against the Milwaukee Brewers to deplete a little bit more. So did somebody tell at 9.2. I do think that Verlander does a good job being able to keep things locked down. So do like the 9.5 under, and with the Astros willing to lay up to a minus 108 on that run line. 919, 920 on the betting board. The Slam Diego Padres are going to be playing against the Detroit Tigers. Joe Musgrove on the bump for the Padres, and it is old to be determined who's going to be on the bump for the Tigers. This is a game that's off the board. This looks like it sets up to be a Kenta Maeda bulk game, and if so, you're probably going to be seeing some sort of an opener. Yesterday they trotted out there Bo Brisky. I know that they've been using from time to time some like a Will Vest to be able to open up for him, so I do think that this is going to be one of those guys. And for the Tigers, they've been able to do a really nice job with their bullpen recently. Since July 1st, this team is in the top 9 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Man, I just mentioned Invest, Brennan Hennefy, Jason Foley. These guys have been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. You've got Sean Gunther who's in the bullpen as well. It's a bit touch and go, but right now it's sub-2 ERA, so that makes things very interesting. That said, I still think that Kenta Maeda is very untrustworthy if you do get him as a bulk guy, so I did set the Padres at a minus 238 on the money line. If you're looking to lay run at, currently only Circa has that number up, but you're finding that at a plus 102, I would be willing to take that, as I was willing to go up to a minus 119 on that run line. And for Kenta Maeda, this would be his first appearance since Wednesday, so he'd be operating on regular rest, and it's been less than savory for him, to say the least, giving up north of 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. And for Detroit, you've got quite a few guys. They're doing a solid job in terms of just finding a way on base. They're not necessarily supplying a lot of power, as this team is in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, but Cole Keith, Matt Vierling, they combined 27 home runs, both hitting in that neighborhood about a 255 to 260. Riley Green has been able to give you a 350 on base. He has slugged out 20 home runs this season. Spencer Torkelson, since coming back up from the minor league level, I'm not going to call it amazing or anything like that, but hitting about a 300 pair of home runs, so do like to see that. Still have quite a few guys at the bottom of this lineup that have not necessarily been able to supply too much despite the recent hot run. Torkelson, Jackson Henry, Malloy, Parker Meadows, Zach McKinstry, guys like this running a 230 or lower. And then for the San Diego Padres, this team is number 1 in the big leagues in terms of batting average against righties, and just have a lot of guys moving the line in general, as you've got Manny Machado, Jackson Merrill, Jurickson Profar, all supplying at least 19 home runs, all at least at 274. Luis Rise at the top of the lineup has been able to continue to hit about a 300, and even with Ha-Seong Kim out of the lineup, Xander Bogaerts, since he's come off the injured list, has been hitting north of 300. Kyle Higashioka generating home runs, not necessarily giving you a ton in terms of average, 230 average, 276 on base, but he's getting a home run every about 12 or so bats. And the Padres have been able to fortify their bullpen as well. Top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA over the last 45 days. Have a lot of guys like Alec Jacob, Jason Adams, Tanner Scott being able to supply a sub-3 ERA to be able to get the ball to Robert Suarez, who has been a lockdown closer for the Padres. And for Joe Musgrove, since coming off the injured list, he's been able to build himself back up. He has now made 4 starts since coming back from injury. He has been able to provide a combined 13 innings in his last 2 starts after going 4 1/3 in those first 2, giving up 3 runs in this time span, and has given up just 4 walks in his last 4 starts as well. Swing and miss stuff appears to be back, as well as prior to him going on the injured list was getting fewer than 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. So do like this spot for the Padres. Willing to take that run line at a plus 102 like I'm seeing, and did set my total at an 8.3 here at the 8. I also like the over, and we wrap things up with my VSiN website right up at 921, 922 on the betting board. The Boston Red Sox are on the road facing off against the New York Metropolitans. Luis Severino is on the bump for the Mets. Brian Bayo is on the bump for Boston. Boston is an underdog of between plus 105 to a plus 112. Meanwhile, for the Mets, it's anywhere between minus 120 to a minus 125, 8 being the total. The over is between minus 110 to even money, and the under, that is between minus 110 to a minus 120, and my write-up is going to be on the over. Did set my total at an 8.7, so even if this sticks back up to the opener of an 8.5, we'll be in on the over. We have seen the Boston Red Sox do a nice job ripping the cover off the ball since the All-Star break. Post-All-Star break, the team is averaging about 5.1 runs per game. That's a top 3 mark in the American League, and you just take a look up and down the boulevard for this team and their lineup. Pretty much all but one of their starters right now, providing you with north of a 300 on base. You've had Nick Sogard get a few at-bats recently. He's been struggling a little bit at the plate, but there's just so many guys like Masataka Yoshida, Jarren Duran, Rafael Devers, Connor Wong that are all hitting at least a 280. You've had Rafael Devers along Tyler O'Neill, both supply at least 25 home runs. And then you've got a lot of guys hitting in that neighborhood of like 14, 15 home runs, like a Weiler Abreu. Certainly Tristan Casas, not necessarily there in terms of power numbers because he spent a lot of time injured, but he's been able to do a nice nice job moving the line, getting on base. Jarren Duran is up to 21 home runs at the leadoff spot with north of 25 stolen bases. And then on the flip side, you've got a New York Mets team that has been able to hit much better at home recently as well. They had massive home and road splits to begin the season, but now they're averaging about 4.6 runs per game at home. Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, a combined 59 home runs, both being able to supply at least a 325 on base, while Mark Vientos, about a 340 on base, 21 home runs out of him. You've been able to have quite a few guys find a way to be able to reach base, move the line. Now, we'll say that Jeff McNeil, for some reason, is hitting like a 210 when he's at home and nearly a 300 on the road. That it makes absolutely no sense. But starting Marte, who's been able to about a 275, he's back. He's been able to do a solid job finding a way to be able to reach base. Jose Iglesias, he has seen his at-bats cut a little bit, but he's been able to hit north of a 300 as well. And for the Mets, this has been a shaky bullpen, to say the least. They are 20th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA since July 1st, as Ryan Stanek is supplying north of a 5 ERA. Danny Young and Alex Young have both been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. And Phil Matone in a Mets uniform, he's been able to do a pretty rock-solid job. Sub-250 ERA, but Reed Garrett about a 367 there, and Edwin Diaz has looked better ever since the sticky stuff suspension, but still can be a little bit untrustworthy, but not as bad as the Boston Red Sox, who are currently 30th out of 30 teams in terms of their bullpen ERA ever since July 1st. They just trotted out their Rich Hill for an appearance in 3 out of the last 4 days. That's not a place where you want to be. Zach Kelly, Kenley Jansen have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, but Greg Weissert, after having a good start to the season, he had seen his ERA balloon up to a 383. Same for Justin Slayton, who's out at about a 325. With that regard, just have had a lot of guys over the past few days really struggle, like a Brandon Bernardino, who was really good at the beginning part of the season. 750 ERA over the last 3 days for him. And for Brian Bayo, it's been a deceiving season for him, because if you look at the record of 12-6, you'd think that he's been pretty rock solid, but he's at a 4.66 ERA. Now, I will say this ERA actually drops to a 4.39 when he is on the road, but he's been giving up plenty of the deep ball, especially on the road, where he's given up between about 1.3 to 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. His walks per 9 rate is in that neighborhood about 3. He's been able to get some swings and misses with about 8.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, but certainly not blowing you away. And for Luis Severino, 4+ runs allowed in 3 out of his last 5 starts, actually 4 out of his last 6 starts to be a bit more exact. Has been much better at home rather than on the road. 3.13 home ERA, 4.82 ERA on the road, and he's not giving up a ton of home runs, about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings overall. At home, that drops to about 1 home run per 9 innings, but is giving up 3.5 walks per 9 innings. He's getting fewer than 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, a career low for him. So do think that the ball is going to be in play quite a bit. My write-up that is going to be on the over. And with the New York Mets, I'm going to be willing to lay it with them. I set them as a minus 145 favorite. So do like the Metropolitans, and my write-up is going to be on the over, and that'll wrap things up for the Monday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to Jon Janesn, who does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler, for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at junior_D1. Keep in mind, letter CM, name me does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'll be coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.